with United stand, and I tell you what, it's big news because Manchester United have got the lawyers involved as they look to get action done this summer transfer window. You may be critical of a club that still has the Glazers at the helm. You may be critical of a club that's not done any transfer activity this summer, but you cannot be critical of the fact that we are trying more than we've ever tried to get this party started. We will be talking about Ugarte of PSG and what the truth is around that. We'll also be comparing what type of player he is and why I think he'd be a very good player, because there's people out there saying he can't hold the midfield. I don't think they've ever played in the midfield. If you can play as an 8, you can play as a 6, and if you can play as a 6, you can play as an 8. It's not like asking a right back to play holding midfield, Gareth. But we're going to start off with some breaking news about Todibo. We've also got Everton looking at 2 Man United players, and Fabrizio says that Ten Hag's contract could be announced today. So it's a big day for Manchester United, and we're going to start off with Todibo. And Manchester United have brought in the lawyers to sit UEFA down, hopefully. The breaking news is that Manchester United want to complete the transfer of Jean-Clair Todibo to Manchester United and are contesting the regulations put in place by UEFA. Swiss lawyer Montanari has been hired to plead before the Court of Arbitration for Sport, CAS, in favour of their move from Nice to United. And I tell you what, if that story is true, Todibo will be holding up a Man United shirt. This is exactly why last Thursday I put a tweet out saying it ain't over, with Tom Cruise saying it's classified. Because this is what I was told middle of last week. Obviously, I had a very bad reaction to us not signing Todibo, because I think it's bloody stupid when Man City are buying a player who was on loan to Girona, who finished in the Champions League, but they can buy him because he was on loan from a French club, which, guess what, Man City own. The laws are stupid. We're seeing it in the Premier League as well, where clubs are selling players to other people who've never played in the Premier League for 20 million. People are bypassing the rules. Man United only got bought 25% by Nice in February, and we can't buy Todibo. It's bollocks. It needed to go to CAS, the Court of Arbitration for Sport, and it needs to be overturned in our favour, because we've got a right-sided centre-back there for under £40 million who will be really, really transformative for us, and we shouldn't have to be going to Palace or anywhere else and going, can we have your centre-back? And they're going, yeah, 60 million. We have the centre-back that we want. This is brilliant news, and I think that as much as I want to talk about Ugarte, because I want to tell you why he's a good signing, we are in a position where this football club is trying to do things that we haven't done for a very long time. Now, whether you get there or not, Branthwaite, Xerxes, Todibo, Ugarte, Neves, there's Frimpong potentially as well. I don't know whether I can talk about that today, but we are trying to do deals. We won't get them all done, but we are trying to do deals. And we are fighting actually something that we never fought with the Glazers, which is actually competence. We're trying to be competent, and that makes it difficult at times because you've got to break down those barriers. But look, this is big news. Manchester United are apparently appointing a lawyer to go to the Court of Arbitration for Sport to push through the deal for Todibo. He wants to come to Manchester United. INEOS and Ten Hag want to bring him to Manchester United, but UEFA's silly rules are saying that you can't do it because Nice are in the Europa League and Man United are in the Europa League. The stupid thing is, if Man United were in the Champions League, we could buy him. If Man United weren't in Europe, we could buy him. I mean, it's just, it's apps. The Europa League ain't all that, is it? And that's the reason we can't sign him. So, big news, Man United have apparently appointed a lawyer to take UEFA to court to push through the Todibo deal. And I, for one, think this is a great bit of news. But I want to know what you think. What are your thoughts on this? Give us your thoughts on a poll. Do you want to... well, no, let's say this. Are United right to push for Todibo? Yes or no? Let me know your thoughts on that one. Heard you're a fans of me. Sending much love, says Margot Robbie. And morning, Mark. How are you, says Cal. I'm a little bit late this morning and I'm a little bit sweaty. 15 minutes late because Seb had his sports day today. And obviously you've got to go and, you've got to put these things in front of this, put it back 15 minutes, everybody's happy. I'm glad I did though, because the Todibo story broke at about 10 to 10, so we would have caught it for the 10 o'clock anyway. But school sports days are always a very interesting thing. Seb is just like me. He's definitely gets stressed about people. He was doing the egg and spoon race and they're in a big queue of 6. He did well, and then other people just kept dropping in it, and he was going mad in the queue. He was going absolutely mad. He was like, If he could have said the word prat, I think he would have been going, you're an absolute prat. But swap with Sancho. PSG wants Mbappe replacement, says Ronan. We're going to talk about Ugarte in a moment, but we're talking Todibo. Breaking news in the last 20 minutes. Obviously, it needs to get verified by probably better sources, to be honest with you. Not saying the source isn't bad. It's a Belgian, his name is Sacha Tavalieri. I don't know how reliable he is, but he is basically saying that Manchester United want Todibo and will take it to the Court of Arbitration for Sport to push the deal through against UEFA's silly ruling. So let's see what happens with that, but that to me is a positive. Mark, Osman is offered to United for a large fee and Mason Greenwood. What do you think, says Cerebral? Well, it needs to be true, first of all. Courts are slow, Mark, not a quick turnaround, says Jay. Yeah, courts are slow, but it might make UEFA think whether they want to go to court or not, because their laws are... it's very specific as well to not be true, says Aaron S. I like Aaron S. I like the cut of his jib. He's very right. The story is very specific. It names the lawyer that we're going to use in the court as well. Court cases can be long, but UEFA, if we say we're taking them to court... They might back down a little bit, but we should do that. What it means in the short term is that we might only buy one centre back, I suppose, but we should do it. You know, you shouldn't let people get away with stuff like that. Anyway, let me talk to you about Ugarte. We can come back on the Todibo news. There's lots to get into this morning. So, what's going on with Manuel Ugarte, Uruguayan midfielder? Manchester United yesterday, Ben Jacobs said a bid had gone in. Then other people were saying a bid hadn't gone in. Fabrizio last night said that there has been some contacts in the last 24 hours for Manuel Ugarte from Manchester United. They've discussed several opportunities between PSG and Manchester United. It was not a formal proposal and it was not an official bid, but one of the names mentioned was Ugarte. Well, what I was told last night when I was trying to get this clarified in between England game is that no official bid went in, but it doesn't mean that Man United haven't put forward a proposal, i.e. the suspicion is that Man United have offered about 35 million quid for Ugarte up front. I think PSG paid 60 million euros for him a year ago. And I personally think a 35 million pound cash deal is not cheeky. You know, it's not really. He's not had an amazing first season at PSG. They've paid 60 million euros for him and you offer about 35. As I say, the bid's not official. The talks were there. PSG are willing to do a deal, but I think they want a little bit more for it. I want to talk to you about what Ugarte is, but this is a player. I put a clip out yesterday, a year ago in May. We did a video about Man United being interested in Ugarte when he was at Sporting Lisbon. On that same video, we talk about Humlen, who went to Sporting Lisbon last summer, and Ugarte went from Sporting Lisbon to PSG. And it just made me think, you know, we do so much as a community talking about so many stories, but how much do we miss as a football club? You know, this is one thing I want INEOS to sort out, because I actually was looking at some of the videos from last summer looking at players that we got linked to. And at the start of the summer last year, we were linked to Ugarte and we were linked to Humlen, who then went to Sporting Lisbon and now has an 80 million release clause. And Ugarte is now at PSG and we're trying to do a deal. And it's like, we couldn't do those deals last summer because it was incompetent. You know, we had a bad summer transfer window last year, didn't we? We didn't have money for a midfielder, really. We got Amrabat on loan at the end of the season, at the end of the summer transfer window. We've got to stop doing this. We've got to stop scouting the right player and then not bringing them in. Like Todibo could have come in last summer. You know, we wouldn't be in this situation now. We wanted a centre-back last summer. We didn't get Todibo. We didn't get Kim Min-jae, and we ended up with Johnny Evans on a free. We wanted Ugarte and Humlen last summer. One went to Sporting, one went to PSG, and now we're looking around at them again. People take the piss out of our scouting. I actually genuinely think our scouting's probably not that bad. It's what we do with the scout reports. And people say our scouting's rubbish, but they don't sign the players. Man United will have good scouts in Europe and South America and England. they put the names forward. And look, there's numerous scouts that have left Man United over the last 10 years and have put forward names that they put forward and nobody ever did anything about it. So, look, it's interesting that Ugarte and Holmlund were both strongly linked to United at the start of last summer. We didn't get either of them, and now we're looking at them again. We've got to stop doing that. We have to stop doing that. Todibo was a target last summer as well. How many good players have we missed out on, and then we go back looking for straight after? But look, on Ugarte, I think that he has to be considered as a good option. Now, listen to this. Right, I've taken João Neves, Onana at Everton, Casemiro and Ugarte from last season, and just going to pull out comparative some of their stats against each other, because I think it helps people understand what these players are like. And also it cuts through the bullshit, because everybody's got an opinion. And I saw some people yesterday who were saying, I don't think Ugarte could work as a lone 6. I think he works better as an 8. And I completely disagree, because I don't know what level these people have played football, but not much of a level at all. Have you played 11 aside or just 5 aside with your mates? Because I've played the game. I played at a decent level until I was about 16, 17, and then I've played amateur football up until, probably about 30. So even pub football, you play with 11 players. Everybody, centre-backs know what your job is, whether you're John Terry or John, who's had 20 pints the night before and is playing at centre-back in a pub match. If you can play as a number 8, like Kobe Mainu, you can play as a 6. You can do it. And if you can play as a 6, you can do it as an 8. If you're in your early 20s, I don't think you can even define what they are. So Ugarte, for me, can definitely play as a holding midfielder. Is he Rodri? No. Does he have the attributes to do it? Yes. You look at just a selection of some of his stats from last season, but what I know of him and what I knew of him from Sporting Lisbon is he's ridiculously energetic. He's very, very, very good on the ball. He does pick up a few yellow cards, but he would be comparable to, there's no reason he couldn't do that role. Now, we might want to play a double pivot, in which case you're absolutely fine, but I think we need a 6 that's going to drop in between the centre-backs, and I think he's capable of doing that. But maybe we're not looking to buy him to do that anyway. Maybe we're just looking to boost the midfield options. But look, interestingly, fouls per 90 last season, he's top with 1.9 compared to Casemiro 1.2, Onana 1.4, and João Neves 1.25. So he's busy. He's busy. He's making tackles. He's getting involved. Opponent half recoveries, he's around the same as João Neves and Onana, 4.6 to their 4.2, and João Neves 4.6. So again, he's busy. He's on the move. He can press. Defensive duels per 90, 8.1. So defensive duels per 90. How many times are you getting into, scenarios where you're trying to win the ball from the opposition? 8.1 for João Neves, 6.7 for Onana, which is bad when you're playing for Everton. Like, João Neves is more active defensively in duels than Onana, and Onana plays for Everton, and João Neves plays for Benfica, who are one of the best teams in Portugal. 8.1 for Casemiro, 12 for Ugarte. He is an absolute offensive, defensive, pressing, tackling monster. What about his passes per 90? Well, João Neves is top with 62. That doesn't surprise me. 62 passes per 90 with a 90% success rate. Onana is bottom with 40 passes per 90 and an 86% accurate. Can I just say, I don't know why we're looking at Onana of Everton. I don't know why we're being linked to Onana from Everton, and I don't know why people want us to get him. He hardly passes the ball comparable to any other target. He's not defensively getting into as many tackles as every other target. I don't understand what the Onana hype is, really. Anyway, Casemiro, 8 defensive duels per 90 with a 57% pass accuracy, but passes per 90. Sorry, I've got that wrong with Onana. I've read the wrong thing. Casemiro does 57 passes per 90 with an 85% accuracy. But Ugarte, 54 passes per 90, 92% accuracy. He's got the best passing accuracy out of all of them. He's got the best defensive stats out of all of them. I just think he's a really, really, really interesting player. And also, you've got to look at what type of passes he plays as well, because we don't just want some, it's very obvious with Ugarte that defensively he's really aggressive and makes tackles and gets involved. But what about his ability to play forward passes? Again, he's got a 91% accuracy with forward passes compared to Casemiro's 85, and João Neves is 90%. So look, I think he's a very, very interesting profile of player, and ultimately massively energetic, loves a tackle, very well disciplined in his positional sense, and also very good on the ball at passing. And what do Man United need in a 6/8 or in our midfield in a more defensive way? We need a tackler and we need somebody who can pass. And also, let's not get traditionalist here. Rodri is considered to be a 6 for Man City in Spain. How often is he on the edge of the opposition's box, scoring goals, playing the assist? A lot. We think as a 6, as somebody who stood in front of our back four on the edge of the box. That's not what we're looking for. We're not looking for a right back who's defensive. We're looking for full-backs who get forward, and we're looking for a number 6 who actually implements the press. You know, and Ugarte undoubtedly is aggressive and good in the final third in relation to he can win the ball back in the opposition's half. He can pass the ball forward. He get on the ball. So I think when people look at the traditional 6, it's also about we don't want a traditional 6 who's stood on the edge of our box. We want to get forward, and I like the idea. Do I think we'll get him? I don't think we're in a position at the moment to know fully if Ugarte is going to be a target for Manchester United. What I found interesting is that Fabrizio said that we were talking about a number of players with PSG both ways. Now, instantly, people started going, Rashford. I would love that deal to happen. I think it would be, like I would love Newcastle to give us £50 million for Scott McTominay. That's a bad deal for Newcastle, but I love it. If PSG gave us 75 million for Rashford, it's actually a good deal, in my opinion. For PSG, for Marcus Rashford, and for Manchester United. I don't think it's going to happen, but Romano said that we're talking to PSG about a number of options. Ugarte will be one of them. What will the other options be? Who else are we looking at from PSG? Who would PSG be looking at Manchester United? So I don't think Rashford's going to be the one, but I think that would be a good deal for everybody. It'd be great for him, a new start, and I think he'd be brilliant for PSG. He's got a point to prove, and obviously we are in a position where we can probably move forward with Garnacho on the left and Ahmad on the right, and then you've got the backup of Anthony and maybe a new right winger. So I don't think that, especially if we brought someone like Frimpong in, I don't think Rashford's going anywhere, but it's interesting that Romano said something about PSG and Man United talking about other players. But back to Ugarte, I would take him. I think if you're a little bit of a historical watcher of the United stand, we have spoken about him a lot last summer, and there was a lot of us that really liked that signing as a potential, and obviously he went to PSG. So it's always interesting when a player from the past reappears as an option for Manchester United. But I remember us talking about Ugarte last summer before he went to PSG, and a lot of people liked him from Sporting. He's not had a great season at PSG, but I wouldn't hold it against him. You know, I don't think he's the sort of player that you'd go, oh, that was terrible. But I do think that needs to be a price reduction as well. I mean, I don't think we should be paying anywhere near 55 million euros, which is what they paid for him. I think there has to be a price reduction there. And I think United going in at about 35 is actually quite realistic. I'd also say, can't we just do a try before you buy thing? Maybe, I don't know. But I think what's really important is, if you're asking me, would you put Ugarte on the hotometer? Despite talks of bids and stuff, I actually wouldn't put him on the hotometer at the moment because, one, I've forgotten, but more importantly, I wouldn't put him on there at the moment because I think in relation to the midfielder, Man United have got a few irons in the fire. João Neves is obviously a player we're looking at, but you know what? Just a Goldbridge sort of touch here. João Neves, PSG really want João Neves. I'm wondering if United might go, look, we'll stay out the João Neves deal if you let us have Ugarte, because I don't know whether we can do a João Neves deal anyway. I still think Rabiot might be considered. And that's another point as well about Ugarte. At 23, you bring him in, he's a two-contract player. He's got 2 big contracts left in his career to work for. You bring Rabiot in, it's his last contract, and there is a mental thing about that, of course. And it's amazing, actually, isn't it, how relevant the mental element of football is. When you look at England last night with Bellingham and Foden and Kane and Saka and Rice, and how below their level they all are, because mentally something's not quite right. Football, we've seen it with Man United. getting the mentality right is absolutely essential. Oh, big shout out to Kobe Mainoo as well. Being thrown into that shit setup yesterday, I thought he did really, really well. Maybe we could be looking at Nuno Mendes as left back. I would love that, says Al. Very good player though. I don't see why we would be looking at him, considering, you know, I think he'd be way without our price range. And I don't even know if they'd be looking to sell. FA should be replacing Southgate with Rangnick, says Sanel. Oh well, I wasn't going to say this, but I will. What the hell were Man United and INEOS and our PR team not doing, killing the Southgate rumours dead in March? Like, to let that run for 3 months, that, you know, INEOS are big admirers of Southgate, they should have killed that dead. Look, we didn't give Southgate the job. We've gone with Ten Hag, but we definitely were linked to him. Who knows what conversations took place? Who knows how close he got to being considered for the job? But wow, most of us said it. What the hell are Man United doing being linked to him? He is an absolute dinosaur. Tractor. He's a tractor. That's what he is. If he was a vehicle, he'd be a tractor. What were Man United allowing their name to be linked to that for? I'll never know. And that reflects badly on whoever, whether it's Ashworth, whether it's Brailsford. That is just a, mate, absolute joke. And many of us were right to be frustrated about it. We should not be linked to people like that. It's an absolute joke. FA should be replacing Southgate with Rangnick, says Sanil. Mark, you've been on about a specialist DM prior to the acquisition of Casemiro. Stop bending the rules, says Emmanuel. But what is a specialist DM, Emmanuel? We'd love to, you know, we'd love to. We always love somebody who states something and then doesn't give their opinion. You know, the coward tweet, I would say, or post. What's a specialist DM then? In this modern game, what's a specialist DM? Please give us your definition and a player who is a specialist DM that's going to come to Manchester United. João Neves isn't a specialist DM. Ederson's not a specialist DM. Ugarte's not a specialist DM. So who's the specialist DM in the modern game? What you're looking at is evolution. What you're looking at is what people are doing with fullbacks, inverting them into the midfield. What is a special? Is Rodri a specialist DM? He's scoring goals. He's part of the attack for Spain and Man City. This is what I mean. I think people are too rigid. You can't sit. If you've ever played a game of football, you've ever coached a game of football, you will never say these words. They're an 8, not a 6. You will never say that. Because an 8 can do the job as a 6, and a 6 can do the job as an 8. Because that's the game now. They're midfielders. I think asking a 6 to play as a 10, it's very, very difficult. Very, very difficult. But 6 and 8, it literally is just a bit more of the line, and you've got the same number. It can be done. It can be done. I'm not saying it's like playing left centre-back, right centre-back, because I think that's probably the one area on the pitch where you can do it. You're just going to struggle with your foot. But a 6 and an 8 in the modern game, an 8 has to be defensive. There's going to be periods of time where you've got to be positionally, you know, sound. We've seen it with England. You know, our 8 just isn't doing the job to help Rice. But what is a specialist DM? We do need a 6, 100%. I will have said that. We desperately need a 6 who can play there because we haven't got one. But the profile of that 6 doesn't mean, you know, Ederson's not necessarily a 6 for Atalanta. João Neves is not necessarily a 6 for Benfica. And the same with Ugarte. You've got to look at the evolution of football, really. And, you know, the modern 6, traditional 6 in a top 4 team is scoring goals and creating goals, even Declan Rice at Arsenal. But then look at Arsenal in the last few months of the season. First few months of the season, you've got Declan... I mean, Arsenal's a great case. First few months of the season, Arsenal buy a traditional 6 in Declan Rice, right? But I was always told about Declan Rice that he could play as an 8. If you look at him in training, some of the goals he scores, there's always been this massive rumour mill around Declan Rice that he plays as a 6 for West Ham because he's the best player and they're defensive, but he actually can score goals. He's actually really skillful. Goes to Arsenal. First few months he's playing as a 6 with Havertz and Odegaard ahead of him. Last few months, Jorginho comes in. Declan Rice is almost more like an 8. So, you know, and Declan Rice is probably one of the most traditional-minded 6s you would think of, but he actually can be an 8. And Arsenal utilised that in the last few games of the season because Jorginho is probably a traditional 6. Jorginho, Chelsea, Italy, Arsenal, he's a traditional 6. Sits in front of the back 4, dictates the game like a Carrick. That's, you know, that's a traditional 6. But Declan Rice can be an 8 as much as he can be a 6. And that's what we're looking for. We're looking at players who can do both roles. And look, Mainoo's proved he can do it as a 6. I think he's a better 8, but Mainoo could end up being a 6. He's what, 19? If he grows and bulks and slows down a bit, he might end up being a 6. Who knows what the plan is for him? Mark, I've done that one. Kim Min-jae fell out at Bayern. Why not go for him, says Margot. And hi, Mark. Ugarte reminds me of my favourite defensive midfielder, Cambiaso. Vision, commitment, always looking to be involved, says Georgie. And Methane Man says, if Leipzig and Salzburg are under same ownership, Sesko joined July 2023 and both clubs are in the Champions League. What's the difference? I think this new rule has just come in, mate. That's my understanding of it. Mitt says, not related to United, but do you think the national teams must be managed by respective managers from the same nation? Each nation must have a style of their own. No, Mitt, I don't. We live in a diverse world, and if you're going to say that you've got to be Brazilian to manage Brazil, or German to manage Germany, or English to manage England, then, you know, that's not the case. You can play for England if you're born in Nigeria, or if you're born in Mexico. If you move over to England when you're 10, you can play for England by the time you're 18. So we don't live in that world anymore. And I don't like those sort of barriers as well. You can only be English to manage England. I mean, that's just not the sort of message that you want to be putting out in 2024. Big Z says, would UEFA rules allow a loan transfer for Todibo? Not suggesting we should buy him. Just want to know. Well, as I say, there might be some... UEFA might get in contact and say, look, there's a way around this. Hopefully they will. Mark, do you think that we should look at combo players? If we can't buy quantity, should we focus on buying a few that can cover multiple positions, says Patrick? Well, yeah, look at Frimpong. Can play right back, right wing back, right wing. Exactly. Ugarte can probably play as a 6 and an 8. Yeah. I think players that can play 2 or 3 positions, if they're good in those. I mean, I don't want, John O'Shea could play multiple positions, but probably was never really going to start. They're brilliant players to have in the squad. But if you've got a player like Kimmich, who's, considered to be pretty much world class, can play right back and holding midfielder, those players are worth their weight in gold. Southgate is still the favourite to be the next United manager, says JR. He wouldn't last 5 minutes, mate. What would be a good proposal for Ugarte from a PSG perspective? How much would you pay, says Kelvin? Well, the rumour is, we haven't put an official bid into PSG, but the rumour is, from a very good source last night, is that Man United are in talks with PSG about multiple options, of which nobody really knows who they are. Because it's hard to know who PSG would want from us, and it's hard to know who we would want from them. And Ugarte was mentioned because it was a player that we wanted last summer at Sporting who went to PSG. And he's not had a great season at PSG. So Man United have mentioned Ugarte to PSG and have said, what about around 35 million? And PSG have said, we'd want more than that. And that's how it is at the moment. But I think 35 million for Ugarte is about right, considering they paid 55 million a year ago and he's not had a good season. Ultimately, you might get him for 35 plus add-ons, But I think this is the game we're playing at the moment. We're waiting on the Branthwaite deal. I'm sure it will happen. United, what I like about United is, and some people are describing it as haphazard, is we're talking to a lot of people. Who's the priority? I think we've got 2 or 3 priorities in each position. I don't think I think there is a number 1 target, but I think we're happy with the number 2 and 3. So it's interesting around Ugarte, and let's see if it gets followed up, because it could be another name. We've had a few names linked, haven't we? Do you think we could keep Amrabat as well, says James? Well, I think we need to keep Amrabat, because if Casemiro goes and Eriksen goes, you're left with Bruno, Mainoo, Mount, McTominay. New midfielder, Amrabat. Collier coming through. That's how I see it. I mean, I'd sell McTominay as well. So, hard to do a deal with Qatar when they tried to buy us, says Edward. Yeah, I mean, the Qatari PSG thing is actually very, very, very welcome into the chat, Edward. You make a very, very good point. I'd never even thought about that. But business is business, isn't it? Yeah, it is interesting in that sense. But I'm pretty sure the Qatari owner, the Glazers, had a good relationship with him at one point. I don't know. I don't think it's impossible that Man United can do deals with PSG. Look, maybe Qatar would like to take Rashford to PSG and make him play well again and go up yours. This is what we would have done at Man United, There's all sorts of twists and turns. Mary Earps is leaving our women's team for PSG. Can she be part of the deal for Ugarte? I'm really liking the way INEOS are moving, says Mandy. Well, there you go. When Rashford in form, he's one of the best left wingers in the world, says Jazz. Thank you very much for that. And do you think Anthony should be given an ultimatum this season? He hasn't really showed any progress, says Rahul. I mean, I like the idea of ultimatums, but further to that, I think that, who's got the power? Who's got the power in these situations? Because they don't actually, he's got a long contract on a very good wage. So what's the ultimatum? Like, if it doesn't work out for him, he's still a very rich person on a very long contract that Man United have got to resolve. So what's the ultimatum? I think for him, he wants to play well. He wants to be a Man United player. That's the ultimatum, isn't it? But if he doesn't achieve that, who knows? Bit of an update coming in from the Manchester Evening News. I mean, as per usual, it's a pretty much slow sports repetitive news. Lindelof, Wan-Bissaka, Eriksen and Hannibal Mabry are all available for transfer. I mean, I could have told you this 4 months ago. Also, Man United will trigger McTominay and Harry Maguire's 1-year extensions on their contracts if they're still here in September. I mean, I'm surprised somebody would even write that. I mean, it's just obvious news. We know Wan-Bissaka's up for grabs. We know Lindelof's up for grabs. We know Mabry's up for grabs. And we know Eriksen's up for grabs. And we also know that Scott McTominay and Harry Maguire's contract is up in 2025, but we've got an option for a year. We triggered Mason Greenwood's. We're selling him. It's just protecting. And somebody somewhere will get really angry and say, I can't believe we're keeping McTominay and Maguire. It doesn't mean we're keeping McTominay and Maguire. We're just protecting the contract to make it a 2-year deal left instead of 1. And also, we're waiting for the transfer window to be over to do it. If a good offer comes in for Maguire and a good offer comes into McTominay, we could sell them as well. So I would add McTominay and Maguire to Eriksen, Mabry, Wan-Bissaka and Lindelof, as we are obviously open to offers. If McTominay and Maguire are still here, then we'll trigger the contract to make it go beyond 2025. So there's still another 18 months left on their contract. Danny says your hatred for how Rashford is unhealthy. But Danny, I don't hate Rashford. So your obsession with me not liking Rashford is deluded, and you should get yourself into the doctors today because you are labouring under the biggest misapprehension out there. I don't dislike Rashford at all. Anybody who watches this channel knows I stuck up for him when he was out in Belfast, knows I think he's a brilliant player when he's on it. All I've said is, if PSG gave us 75 million, I'd sell him because I think it's good for everybody. But that's not hatred, mate. That's a business transaction. Simple as that. I don't expect him to leave. I think he will be here next season. I think he'll have a good season next season, and I'll be celebrating those goals. Simple as, because I'll celebrate a McTominay goal, I'll celebrate a Rashford goal, I'll celebrate a Bruno goal. I want Man United to win. It's as simple as that. And I don't do hate, because hate drags you down. It eats you up. Talking of which, Oki, welcome to the Members Club. Talking of those player exits, by the way, Everton have been linked to Lindelof and Wan-Bissaka. Now, I'm not saying there's anything involved in that, but I did say to you a couple of weeks ago, with Branthwaite, if I was Everton and I was Man United, I'd be saying, look, we've got McTominay, Maguire, Wan-Bissaka and Lindelof, who would all improve your team. We want Branthwaite. You want to do a deal. He wants to come to Man United. Let's do a deal that's a good deal for everybody. And then we can do a deal, if you want to, for one of Lindelof, Wan-Bissaka, Maguire, McTominay, that's a good deal for you and a good deal for us. There is reciprocal business to be done here. We're not giving you Overton. We're not giving you, a dodgy player. Lindelof makes you better. Maguire makes you better. Wan-Bissaka makes you better. McTominay makes you better. They're all good players for Everton. Now, if they want to come and you want to do a deal, let's do a deal. So those opportunities are there. Whether Everton want to do them or someone else wants to do them, I don't think Lindelof and Wan-Bissaka to Turkey needs to happen. You can keep your house. Cheshire's just down the road. I think there's, but that's up to Everton. It's not up to us. I mean, I'm not. Like I say, if Newcastle want to give us £50 million for McTominay, I'll be running around the garden with my top off. It would be a great deal for us and a bad deal for them. But there are good deals. 30 million for McTominay to Everton's a good deal for Everton as much as it's a good deal for us and McTominay. Wan-Bissaka would be a very, very good. I mean, look, Ashley Young has just been given a new contract to Everton. He was crap last season. He'd started going on TalkSport because I think he knew he was finished. He's now, oh yeah, I'm staying at Everton. Of course he is, because the money will be way more than what TalkSport will give him. And Everton keeping Ashley Young just show, Wan-Bissaka is way better than Ashley Young. So, he could be available for 20 million. It'd be a great deal for Everton. It'd be a good player for Everton. Dyche plays defensive football. So there's deals that can be done there. The fact that we're looking at Branthwaite, I don't know why Everton wouldn't be looking at some of our players. Some of them are homegrown as well. Maguire and Wan-Bissaka are homegrown players. So, and they're available for good price. So England could have done with Rashford profile type players, as United won. Yeah, you don't understand football, do you? Why is Rashford the only player to be protected like this? There is a narrative that when he doesn't put a shift in, we need to feel sorry for him, says Zion. Mate, the only reason we spoke about Rashford on this show is because Fabrizio said that PSG are talking to us and we're talking to them about multiple players, and I can't see any player that PSG would be interested in other than Rashford, so it's a compliment. As for the sympathy vote, mate, I'm not talking about it with United. Maybe it's a society thing. I don't know. But you got Gareth Southgate after the game yesterday talking about England fans not treating him or his team well. They spent thousands of pounds to go and watch that shit. I don't know why the modern footballer, manager, whatever you want to call it, they just seem to think that their shit don't stink. Like, they don't realise how much time investment football fans put into football, and they're just on a pedestal. But that's got nothing to do with Man United. That's just me moaning about England, really. Do you think Sancho could be an option for PSG? Well, I mean, I'd love it if he was. I think in the French league he'd do very, very well. What we've seen from Sancho is he seems to do well in a league where it's not competitive every week. With all due respect to the Bundesliga, there are some good teams in the top half, but the bottom half, I think Rangnick said it when he was here and Ten Hag said it, there's some pushover teams there, and I think that is the sort of league that probably suits Sancho because he can turn it on against good teams, but I don't think he can do it every week. And I think a league that's not as competitive as the Premier League might suit him. Big Zez says, off topic, Mark, I agree with you that Jerusalem would be a great national anthem. Also, did you watch the show The Boys? Not seen it, Big Z. We need a centre-back, a left-back, a DM and a left winger. Is there any chance we get them all, says Ashish. Look, I'm encouraged by the amount of business we're doing at the moment. And people will go, what? None. Business ain't about the final signing of the contract. There's a lot of work that goes into selling a house. There's a lot of work that goes into a business transaction. And Man United are doing a lot of work at the moment around that. The final piece will be, oh, here we go. Deal done. Official. But we are doing a lot of business work at the moment around a lot of players. Some of it won't come to fruition. Some of it will. I guarantee you when some of it does, you're going to go, I like that. I like that a lot. Which is why I'm really, really pleased. I'm very, very pleased that we're looking at Ugarte. I'm very, very pleased about that. But I'm also very, very pleased about this breaking news that we're looking at getting a lawyer involved to go to the Court of Arbitration and Sport to take UEFA to court in relation to Todibo to push that deal through, because I think it's absolutely right to do that. And it's absolutely wrong the way UEFA are penalising us on a distinct set of circumstances that are more circumstantial than deliberate. And we shouldn't be punished for that. We really, really shouldn't. Did you see about Rasmus? I saw that Rasmus are... I saw about Rasmus... just a very interesting tweet here, and I think it's absolutely spot on. So, the story about Manchester United, I'll just bring you this. Man United want to complete the signing of Todibo. The English company specialising in chemical sectors, INEOS, has hired a Swiss lawyer, Montanari, to plead before the Court of Arbitration for Sport in favour of the arrival of the defender, right? Top reply on this is from somebody called Paul Blanc United. He says, it's not a rule across the board. It only applies to certain clubs in certain circumstances, and it restricts freedom of movement of a European citizen. Good luck with that, UEFA. And I think, ultimately, they will lose. And what I think will happen is, if UEFA want it to go to court of arbitration and sport, they will lose. And I think there is an opportunity for UEFA to pick up the phone to Man United and say, look, let's sort something out here. Let's sort something out here. I mean, even Man City were in trouble for what they've done with UEFA That went to the Court of Arbitration and Sport, and Man City won. So the Court of Arbitration and Sport will look at things like movement of an employer across Europe and things like that. So I think we will win. How long it will take, I don't know. I just hope UEFA act sensibly and allow us to, get that deal done, because it's such a straightforward deal and everybody wants it to happen. Just going back to Rasmus. Quite a lot of stick for Rasmus in the Danish press around his performances for Denmark. A few people talking about it last night on social media. Look, in relation to Rasmus, I didn't watch the game last night because I was watching England. It was at the same time. I watched him play against us, and I watched the first game against Slovenia. I think that the effort and energy and hunger is there for Rasmus, but it reminds me a lot of some of the games he played for Man United last season, where it's just not got, the service just isn't there. They're not a team that, creates a lot of possession in the final third. And it's, international football. Look at Lewandowski for Poland. You wouldn't give him a good score. Look at Harry Kane last night for England. Like, it ain't easy being an international striker in teams that really don't create many chances. So, and look, I thought Harry Kane was very poor for England because of where he was dropping into position. But it wasn't like there was a load of service for him. I think he should have scored one on the back post. But yeah, I'm not worried about it. I'm really genuinely not worried. Graveyard shift, as Andrew. I mean, do I think if Rasmus plays crap in the next round and Denmark gets sent home, do I think that's problematic for Man United? I think it's a benefit. I think he's out of the tournament by the start of July. He has a extended holiday, probably comes back for the tour on the 20th of July. Pre-season we move. We're sort of moving into that area now with it as well. I think it's important to start realising that the round of 16 is this weekend. If teams with Man United players get knocked out this weekend, they won't be back in training till the 20th of July. They'll be given 3 weeks off. They'll get more than 2. They'll get 3 weeks off. So if you get knocked out this weekend, you're probably going on the tour. If you don't get knocked out this weekend and you go to the quarterfinals, which is next weekend, they ain't coming back till the end of August, so they won't go on the tour. So if that's important to you, you want to see Portugal, England, Denmark, and every other team that's got an English player knocked out this weekend, because then they'll go on the tour. They've got to be given 3 weeks off. Some people have said they'll only get 2 weeks off. That's ridiculous. Whether it's Scott McTominay, Luke Shaw, doesn't matter. You've got to give them 3 weeks. The season last season was horrific. The season before that was horrific. 2 weeks is not long enough. You've got to give them 3 weeks. They've got to get proper R&R. I know it sets their pre-season back, but honestly, the benefits of giving them an extra week now will help us out by Christmas. You can't go from a full Premier League season like we had into a tournament and then have 2 weeks off and come back training for Man United. They need 3. They need 3. And I think Ten Hag knows that, and I think he will give them 3. So, yeah, I mean, look, do I want Denmark to get knocked out? No, because I think Christian Eriksen and Rasmus will want their country to do well. But if they did get knocked out this weekend, then, it's not the end of the world for Man United. And actually, their form in a Danish shirt or an English shirt, it's a bonus if they play well. I'm not really bothered if they play badly because they're not wearing a Man United shirt. Let me just have a look at who Denmark have got in the knockout stage. They've got Germany on Saturday. So, yeah, Rasmus on the tour, probably quite a positive, really. Out on Saturday, 29. I mean, look, Germany will be favourites in that. They played Germany-Denmark on Saturday night at 8 o'clock. Out by the 1st of July. 3 weeks off, go on tour. Happy days. Portugal, we don't know who they're playing yet, but they're playing on Monday at 8. Yeah, we don't know. We're waiting on the teams today to find out who everybody plays. I don't know who England have got on Sunday. They could be going home as well. Look, if England go home, Mainu. I'm starting to look at it like that. England have been so lacklustre. I'm looking at it and going, we're so shit. The sooner we get knocked out, the better, because Mainu gets a bigger break. And Luke Shaw. From a Man United point of view, if England I mean, I don't want England to get knocked out, but if they do get knocked out, the bonus is Mainu and Luke Shaw will get more of a break. And And those are two players that need a break. Mainu's 19, he needs a break. And also Luke Shaw, we need back. Somebody just mentioned, what about the Copa America? The interesting thing about the Copa America is that the final is on the 15th of July, which is, I think it's around the same date as the Euros final. Semi-finals are on the 10th of July, and their quarterfinals are actually next weekend. Not this weekend, the same as ours. So the Copa America started later than the Euros, but it's a smaller tournament. So again, I think if anybody hits the quarterfinals, they probably won't go on the tour unless they only have 2 weeks off. If they hit the semi-finals, they definitely don't. And that's for Copa America and the Euros as well. And I've banged my knee right on the bone. Urgh. Have you spoken about McTominay and Maguire 1 year extensions? Says give it to Mikey. Yeah, it's a non-story, mate. I mean, that whole MEN story is just a non-story. It tells us players who are up for sale that we know. And it says that we'll extend McTominay and Maguire's contract if they're still here in September. But you have to do that because they're both out of contract in 2025. So you're not going to let them run the contracts down. Sometimes you're better than this as a community. Like, it's a non-story. If McTominay and Maguire here in September, we're giving them a 1 year contract because their contracts are up in 2025. It's absolutely logical. Got no problem with it. Sell Todibo to Lausanne Sport and loan him to Man United as Manus. No, take UEFA to court and make them change their rules. Patrick says, what would be the minimum to happen with both players out and in that you would say makes this transfer window a success? Minimum, I would say 10 out, including people like Martial, whose contract's out. So 10 out, 5 in. Minimum. Ideally, 14 out, 7 in. I want to work on a 1-to-2 ratio. England could have done that one as well. Thanks everyone for tuning in this morning. Cracking show. One of my favourite shows of the summer, actually, because that Todibo story is so pleasing. And Ugarte bid as well is fantastic. Make sure you subscribe. Bottom right-hand corner. We're on the road to 1.9. So get subscribing. Get sharing the video. We are back at 2 and 7 tonight. I'm sandwiched in between 2 Euros games. So 7 o'clock show tonight. Obviously back to 8 o'clock tomorrow and on Thursday because there's no games. Obviously we're live if anything breaks. So make sure you subscribe. Bottom right hand corner. Let's hit 1.9 million by the start of the season. Subscribe, bottom right hand corner. Get involved. I hope you enjoyed the little comparison stuff with Ugarte as well. I've got a lot of that planned over the next few weeks as we start to focus in on the players that we want. I want to really start, analysing players on a more universal level so that people understand it, but to sort of counter some of the shit you see out there from people who are making out that they know what they're on about and this player can do this and this player can't do that. Football is a very simple game. I've played it, I've watched it, I've coached it, and I'm sure many of you have as well. Football's appeal is it's so easy and simple. And these people who try and overcomplicate it with stats and tell you this, that, and half spaces and all this bollocks. Listen to what Messi said the other day. The Pep Guardiola era basically set football back. You've got 6 and 7 year olds playing 1-2 touch passes in matches where they need to be doing what I was doing. Taking people on, shooting from 40 yards. Football's a really simple, enjoyable game. And people who tell you that this player can't play there or this player... how many people say that Frimpong can't play at right back? Because he's an attacking right back. It defies logic how people try to overcomplicate football. Thanks, everyone. Smash a like on the video. Subscribe. Speak to you on the next one.